I love that song. I requested that song. I heard it at the Women's Federation for World Peace Chairwoman's Retreat in Arizona. And I was so deeply moved when I heard it, I just cried. So I just want to thank Prideswell for performing it so beautifully, and I really felt moved, and I really felt your heart, so thank you. All right, how are you? Y'all okay? Okay, so many of you know that my father is Reverend Levi Darty. You know that because there aren't that many Black people in our church. I'm just going to put it out there. So you see like a sea of Asian gentlemen, and then there's like the knot of white gentlemen, and then there's like my dad right in the middle. So you can see him on like any broadcast. He's very easy to spot. But my father actually, he's not the most powerful minister in our family. The most powerful minister, the most powerful preacher was my grandmother, Grandmother Ruth, and she was actually the pastor of a church in the South. So being a Black woman who was a pastor of a church is pretty extraordinary, I think. And I just want to invite her to be with me today. My middle name is Ruth, as Toby mentioned, and I feel her watching over me and giving me strength and guidance. So might get a little bit of preacher energy here. So I apologize if that makes you feel slightly uncomfortable. It's okay, because I never give long sermons. All right, so can somebody read that for me? Go for it, nice and loud.
Empowerment of true femininity through leadership part.
That sounds so nice. What does that mean? Anybody? Okay, yeah, it wasn't a rhetorical question. One of the things I love about our community of faith is we are really global. We go really big. We don't say like, okay, we want you to have an amazing experience, and no. You and your whole family, and all your ancestors, and all your future descendants. We want it all, the whole world. So I love that. I love that about us. I love that we're playing on the cosmic level and that we care about every single human being on the planet. But sometimes I get a little bit lost because our ideas are so big, so I just want to break it down and make it really simple. So, this is a quote from Reverend Sun Moon. Anybody want to read it?
No.
Yeah, loud.
Women will cleanse the world of war, violence, and exploitation.
Nice. Second one. Keep going. You're doing great.
Women will build a world filled with peace, love, and freedom.
Yeah, I can get an audience for that. You can get a hand clap for that. So this is from Reverend Moon's speech that he gave in 1992 when he declared the age of women, also sometimes referred to as the era of women. And so Reverend Moon, he established Women's Federation for World Peace with his wife, Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon, and he gave this speech in a stadium in Seoul filled with thousands of people. And he said, listen up, folks, this is it. Now, I have been asked, very respectfully, not to say anything that might potentially be offensive to our older brothers, who I deeply respect. And I completely will comply with that, which is why I left out the rest of those sentences, which I did not say. So if you want to read them, you can read the speech. But it might have had something to do with, the reason we're in this mess is because, but I'm not going there. Anyway, the point is, this is a really powerful and explicit statement to me. And it's also a lot of responsibility. And here we are, 1992, I'm not good at math, but that was, what, over 20 years ago? 23 years ago. So here we are 23 years later. Do you feel like this has happened?
Not yet.
Okay, so this is the time where you are going to be brutally honest. If you are a woman, or a young woman, or a girl, do you feel empowered? Do you feel powerful? Do you feel like you have the power to cleanse the world of war, violence, and exploitation? That you are going to build a world filled with peace, love, and freedom? Do you feel that way right now? Virginia Orman, hallelujah. Yes. Mrs. Kim, thank you. Okay, yeah, all right, I love it. Okay, so out of the women in this room, 4 women, 5 women feel empowered. 6, 7, 8, nice. Okay, it's not a test. It's not a test. I'm not trying to call you out. I'm saying that this seems huge to me, but I really really believe in the power of declarative speech, and I have seen so many things that when Reverend Moon said it, everybody said, that's impossible, that's never going to happen, and then it happened. So, you can go to the next slide for me. So, this is what Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon said in a more recent speech that was given. I need somebody to read it for me. Jasmine, you want to help me out? Yeah.
Today I invite women to accept an important role and become the turning point in building a new century characterized by a loving, peaceful culture. So just do it one more time and mean it. Today I invite women to accept an important role and become the turning point in building a new century characterized by a loving, peaceful culture.
All right, so Reverend Moon said women will do it, and Dr. Moon said you're invited. So I see that as a challenge. This is what we're up to. We're living in a world where we are dealing with horrendous things, sad, terrible, hateful things, and we see that every time we look at the news. But we are also living in a world where we have the solution. We have a platform, we have power that we've never had before. And you have an invitation to take that power, to take that challenge, and to make it happen in your lifetime. Not to say somebody else will do it, or the United Nations will do it, or other people will do it, but I will do it. I will do it today, and I can do it because I am a woman. And as a man, I believe in women, and I will support women to do it because I believe that they have a unique approach to peace that we haven't yet seen. So, for those of you who are Unification Church members, this is going to be an easy question, so don't show off your knowledge. But before Reverend Moon passed into the spirit world, the last thing that he did, the last thing that he established, the last thing he built and created with Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon, his wife, was what? Raise your hand if you know. Afterwards, he prayed the prayer, it is done, it has been accomplished. Yeah, it was the Able Women's United Nations. So he talked about the importance of the United Nations, when and how the United Nations was created. That it came after a terrible war, and it was designed to bring all the countries together to make sure something like that would never happen again. And he talked about how the UN had hit a brick wall. How instead of the leaders of those countries coming together to look at how they could create world peace, they were all coming together in a self-interested way, looking how they could promote the interests of their nation. And he said, that's why we need women in this conversation. We need the Women's United Nations. Abel being in the position of Abel, Adam and Eve's first son, the son blessed by God. So the Able Women's United Nations was the last thing that Father did before he passed into the spirit world. Do you think that's significant?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, 3 people do, that's good. Alrighty then, okay. I'm gonna ask everybody to stand up on your feet. Okay, and just switch seats with your neighbor. You can do it, you can do it. And I want you to look at your neighbor and say, God bless you.
God bless you.
And if your neighbor is a woman, I want you to tell her,
even though you're not a woman,
you're invited.
You're invited
To create world peace.
Robin, you're invited.
And I believe in you. And I support you. You may be seated. All right. So Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon, who we call True Mother, also said this is a historic time. This is a revolutionary time. And I love words, and I don't want you to think that this is some kind of, just hyperbole. Oh, it's historic, it's revolutionary. No. Revolutionary. What does revolutionary mean? Younger person.
Change.
Revolutionary.
Change.
Really? Carolyn, what does revolutionary mean? It changes things? Okay, so there's a lot of words that mean things change. Josh, you want to help me out?
Traditionally, it means when one power is overthrown for another power.
Ooh, a little radical. That sounds like a revolution. He said, did you hear what he said? He said, traditionally it means when one power is overthrown by another power. America was founded by a revolution. Revolutions have two meanings. It can mean this incredible, groundbreaking, earth-shaking, everything changing, sometimes by violence, completely new way of doing things. And it can also mean to turn something over all the way around, right? So, revolutionary. So this doesn't mean like, okay now, we're gonna get comfortable. We don't wanna make you nervous. So we're just gonna take little itty bitty steps, incrementally, little by little. We're gonna gradually bring some women in. Don't worry, they won't catfight, okay? And they're not gonna be too bossy or authoritative, all right? And then when you get used to them, we'll bring in a few more. No, this is a historic time of revolutionary change. That means things are gonna get crazy. And if you know anything about this movement, that's what it does, it moves. It doesn't take its time and go, okay, when the world is ready, it makes things happen in the world. So now I want to just look at, all right, so I'm invited. I'm accepting my invitation. And what does that look like? So does anybody know what this is a picture of?
Suffragettes.
The suffragettes. Anybody seen Mary Poppins? That's right. Do you remember Mrs. Banks? She sang that song about the suffragettes. I totally missed that when I was a kid, you know? Cast off the shackles of yesterday, shoulder to shoulder into the fray. Our daughters will adore us, and they'll sing in grateful chorus. Well done, sister suffragettes. And how many girls my daughter's age even know what a suffragette is? Now when you look at that picture, I want you to put your thinking cap on. This is gonna feel kind of like a little bit classroomy, but you'll be okay, I promise. What do you see in that picture? Raise your hand.
White ladies.
White ladies and
Kids.
and kids. What else? The flag. Okay. And what? Hats. Their hats are fabulous. Take a sidebar to say, like, I did do a study of especially that hat on the left-hand side. Hello. Yes, hats. What else?
Banner.
Their dresses. Okay. All right. Sorry? People are watching. Okay, so I'm just gonna like take a moment, sociological moment here. This lady on this side here and this lady on this side here, they're both women of color. So you might not be able to see that because it's a black and white photo, but that in itself is revolutionary. And then if you look at these women, by their fabulous hats and their dress, they all come from a certain socioeconomic level. Right? So these are wealthy or wealthier ladies, dressed very nicely, very beautifully, with their children, at an interracial march for women's rights. So just guess around when this picture was taken. It's not a test, I promise. Just take a guess.
1910.
Okay, early 1900s. These women that are marching, they're actually representing a much larger group of women. Women have been trying to get the vote in this country for guess how many years? I mean, from when the country was founded. So our resident history professor, Professor Clark, America became a nation in what year? 1776. So 1776, when do you think women started to ask for / demand the right to be full participating citizens of America?
1776.
Before that, actually. It was before even the Declaration of Independence. So before we were actually a country, Abigail Adams is like, hello, future President Adams. I just want to let you know that along with all my other awesome advice, which I totes know you're going to add into the Declaration of Independence, I just want you to remember the women, because we're awesome, and we're going to make this country awesome, so we should totally be citizens. And he's like, I completely feel you, Abigail, but some of these guys are a little bit old school, so it might take a few years for us to get that whole suffrage thing passed. So when did suffrage actually happen?
1920.
Yeah, 1920. So women were actively campaigning to be equal citizens of the country for 100 years, and what does that have to do with anybody or church? Okay, so if you count from the beginning, it's 200. Thank you. What does it have to do with anything? Okay, so my husband is going to show a slightly scandalous YouTube video without the sound, and I'm going to just tell you a 15-second story. So suffrage, a lot of people think that it was just these nice marches with these nice ladies and their nice dresses, and everybody sort of standing respectfully on the sidelines, but actually they were vilified, they were dragged through the mud, they were really crucified by the media. They were called deviants and perverted and wrong. They were attacked in their personhood, in their womanhood, physically attacked. One young naval officer tried to pull a women's rights advocate out of a window and throw her to her death. So people had very strong feelings about women wanting to be full participating members of the nation. Many women were incarcerated for lawfully protesting. And once they were incarcerated, they went on a hunger strike and they refused to eat. And so they were tortured. They were force-fed with a tube until they vomited, and they repeated this process several times a day. Some women even died from this experience. Women got frostbite from standing outside of the White House. They weren't allowed to say anything during their protests, so they got around that by silently protesting. They were called the Iron-Jawed Angels because they stood there every day, all day, in the rain and sometimes in the snow, and their stupid, cute boots froze to the cement that they were standing on, and they got frostbite, and some of them lost their toes. And they did that so that women in this country, all women of all races, could be citizens. So I really like this video for multiple reasons. It's a really good video. It's well made. It's Bad Romance by Lady Gaga, so it's a spoof on that video, but the costumes are super historically accurate, and the music is good, and it shows a lot of those aspects of women's history that we don't really cover in history class. So, moving on. So now I'm going to show like a hint of this documentary on Netflix that you can watch. I highly, highly recommend it. It's called Miss... Yes?
Oh, I just wanted to mention that American white women supported the black man to get the vote. In a balance, they did that first before they were able to get their vote.
Actually, that's correct. So suffrage and abolition was originally one movement. It was universal suffrage, which means the vote and citizenship for every human being of adult age in America. And the suffrage movement, originally abolitionists like Sarah Grimke and others really fought to push forward, and then it splintered. But actually those women, Mary Ogden White, founded the NAACP, so yes, thank you, that's awesome. Okay, so this is a documentary called Misrepresentation. I really recommend that you watch it. It's absolutely amazing, it's very powerful, and it's a lot of what I did research on for my class, and gender stereotypes and how women are viewed and what kind of barriers we face to actually, you know, being big players. Just kidding. Okay. So while he's pulling that up, I want to ask you another question. Oh, you got it. Yay.
Here we are, this massively powerful democratic society, and we are not modeling for the rest of the world a better balance.
If people knew that Cuba, China, Iraq, and Afghanistan have more women in government than the United States of America, that would get some people upset.
No wonder we
Did you know that? Did you know that Cuba, China, Iraq, and Afghanistan have more women actively involved in their governments than America?
I don't think it's true in China.
Actually, it is. It's really interesting because a friend of mine was sharing recently, who traveled in the Middle East, that there's an interesting culture of like disempowering women, but yet, no, you can totally be the boss, but I'm still going to sexually harass you, but you can be my boss. But we don't have that at all, actually. It's like, no, we're going to not sexually harass you, and you're not going to be the boss. So this is interesting to me because I live in this country, but also it impacts our community. It impacts the way we think as a society, as a culture. And what we do to girls and women in our culture is called objectification. So somebody tell me what that word means. Big, long word, what does it mean?
Make them an object.
Okay, to take some person, a human being, and turn them into an object. And girls and women are objectified all the time. Okay, can you, maybe if you're super smart, I got some professors in the room and some PhDs, can you think of a way that women or girls are objectified?
Playboy magazine.
Okay, Playboy, that's an obvious one.
Advertising.
Advertising, okay. Clothing how? Okay, so clothing, even if it's just a t-shirt or a pair of jeans, when it's made for a girl, is made very differently than it's made for a boy. How so? Okay, so girls' clothing are always made to be fitted, and boys' clothing are made to be durable and comfortable. Okay, so I'm gonna go out on a limb, and she said there's only one kind of beauty that's represented for models, right? A very specific body type. But I'm actually a pro-human body person. Whether you are thin and willowy like an elven princess, or whether you are curvaceous and voluptuous like a Rubenesque model, all women are real women and all bodies are beautiful bodies. But there is only one type of body that's portrayed in the media as attractive or desirable. And there's a couple things that this impacts our girls and young women. First of all, you are as likely to see sexually revealing clothing in a G-rated movie as you are in an R-rated movie. Okay? Girls and women are almost always portrayed as sexual objects. And you probably don't even notice when this is being done. The other day I was driving on 95 and there was a billboard and it was just legs. And it was a heating company advertisement. And it says, "Are we turning you on?" So she's not a person, she's not a woman, she's not a thinking being, she's just a pair of legs. Now think, how many advertisements have you seen that are just cleavage? Or just legs? Or just a butt? Or how we tear apart women in the media and in celebrity as body parts. Look at that stomach, is it a baby bump? You know, oh, Sarah Jessica Parker's gained weight. Big circle, arrow. We look at Beyonce's legs, her hair, her eyes, her lips. We chop women up into little pieces, and they're no longer women. And you can really see this in the news, actually, that women news anchors are almost always wearing a lot of makeup. Now, I like makeup, but this is like I'm up in the club makeup, and they're reporting the news at 11, and their hair is long and tousled. They have very dark eye makeup and very dark lip makeup, and they have a high degree of skin exposure. Okay, so even if they're wearing a suit, they are showing a lot more skin, percentage-wise, than their male counterparts. And studies have shown us that women who have a high degree of skin exposure, we can see a lot of their body, it doesn't matter where, wrists, ankles, back of the neck, it doesn't matter, that we no longer see them as a person, we see them as an object, or we sexualize them. And once we sexualize them, they're not people anymore. We put them in the same category as tools. Actually, it's a lower category than animals. So this is a problem because there's only one kind of image that we're portraying. And this doesn't just affect girls, it affects boys and men as well. So there's a really great TED Talk by a dad talking about raising his son. And I'm not going to show the whole thing, I'm just going to show a piece of it, just 2 minutes of it. Maybe even a little bit less. But I really like what he has to say.
We have got to show our sons a new definition of manhood. Now, the definition of manhood is already turning upside down. I mean, you've read about how the new economy is changing the roles of caregiver and wage earner. They're throwing it up in the air. So our sons are going to have to find some way of adapting to this, some new relationship with each other. And I think we really have to show them and model for them how a real man is someone who trusts his sisters and respects them and wants to be on their team and stands up against the real bad guys, who are the men who want to abuse the women. And I think our job in the Netflix queue is to look out for those movies that pass the Bechdel test, if we can find them.
Okay, so can you just
and to
show the Bechdel test?
The heroines who are there, who show real...
So if you're not familiar with the Bechdel test, this is what the Bechdel test is. Are there at least 2 female characters? Do they talk to each other, ever? And do they talk about something other than the man that they're mutually interested in? So in 2011, out of the 100 top money-making movies, less than 10 of them passed the Bechdel test. Yeah, it actually got worse since then, so I took like the least sad one. Okay.
Courage who bring people together and to nudge our sons to identify with those heroines and to say, I want to be on their team, because they're going to be on their team. When I asked my daughter who her favorite character was in Star Wars, you know what she said? Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Glinda. Now, what do these two have in common? Maybe it's not just the sparkly dress. I think these people are experts. I think these are the two people in the movie who know more than anybody else, and they love sharing their knowledge with other people to help them reach their potential. Now, they're leaders. I like that kind of quest for my daughter, and I like that kind of quest for my son. I want more quests like that. I want fewer quests where my son is told, go out and fight it alone, and more quests where he sees that it's his job to join a team. Maybe a team led by women, to help other people become better and be better people, like the Wizard of Oz. Thank you.
Yeah, so I love that TikTok. Yeah, so what he said I think is so powerful. Teaching your son to be someone who can support women. So in America, actually, 1 in 5 women will be sexually assaulted in her lifetime, and experts are saying that that number is actually really wrong, that the true number is more like 1 in 3, but sexual assaults are one of the least reported crimes because of all the stigma associated. So 1 in 5 American women in this country. So if you know a group of women in your circle, maybe someone you know has been sexually assaulted. Who are all these assailants? You know, I'm a mom, and I'm a woman, and I taught my daughters, you know, dress modestly and respect yourself and don't walk alone at night and don't go to parties. And, you know, I was always telling my teenage friend, if you go to a party, you always go with a friend and don't drink any drinks that are given to you, and all of these things that are designed to teach our daughters how not to get raped. But I actually couldn't remember ever even overhearing a conversation where any man said to another man, here's how you do not become a rapist. Here's how you are a stand for women. Here's how you protect women in your family, in your community, in your neighborhood. 1 in 5. That's horrifying to me in this country. And the real number is closer to 1 in 3. It's almost like people say, I don't believe that's true. But I can tell you it is true. And one of the things that I do is I lead workshops called Sex, Health, and Happiness, and I sit down with groups of girls, women, and couples, and I have never had a workshop with women. And we usually do them very small, 10 women at a time. On average, it's 2 women in the room will share about how they've been assaulted. So part of the reason why so many women in our country are assaulted is because we don't think of them as people, as human beings. If you take away someone's personhood, and if you're taught your whole life as a woman that your job is to be sexually attractive and to objectify yourself, and if you're taught as a man that you win the battle and then you receive the woman as a prize, like at the end of Star Wars, which I love, I'm not hating on it, but that's what happens, right? He gets the medal and the wink from Princess Leia. That's her job. She doesn't even say anything. She's the princess of the whole universe, and she doesn't even have a line. So, you know, objects who don't speak, who don't have agency, and when a woman is sexualized, we don't believe her. We don't believe that she's honest. We are more likely to believe that she's lying about anything, that she is not trustworthy. We don't believe she has agency. She can't do anything. She can't get anything done. She can't make anything happen. We don't believe that she has morals. She's not a moral person. You can tell by looking at her. Look what she's wearing. And she becomes an object. So I just want to give you 2 quick examples. So this is a recent award ceremony here. Amal Clooney, actor's wife, this is on the Associated Press, representing Al Jazeera's. So she's the actor's wife. And I love Tina Fey. She's very cool. And so they sort of brought attention to this during the award ceremony where they said, George Clooney married to Amal, say her name for me, Al-Muddin? Al-Muddin, thank you. This year, Amal is a human rights lawyer who worked on the Enron case and with Kofi Annan regarding Syria and was selected for a 3-person United Nations Commission investigating rules of war violation in the Gaza Strip. So tonight her husband is getting a Lifetime Achievement Award. And I thought that was really neat, but the thing is that the Associated Press refers to her, she's not even a person. She's just the attachment of somebody else. And I hate to say this, but I have heard Dr. Hak Jahan Moon referred to as Mrs. Moon, without even a first name, regardless of, the fact that she has a doctorate. Okay, and then this is another young woman who I really like a lot, Emma Watson. So I watched her speech that she gave at the United Nations. How many of you saw it? Okay, so a few of you have seen it. Okay, so she gave this incredible speech at the United Nations about gender equality and what real feminism means. Not man bashing or women grabbing power, but equality, working together. Men standing for women to have equal rights, equal pay, health care, and women actually receiving those equal rights. And do you know how many articles were written about her speech? Do you know how many articles were written about her Christian Dior white coat dress that she wore? We are more interested in what she was wearing than what she had to say. The first Republican female candidate for president was introduced with her dress size at the National Convention. I'm not kidding. So we have a long way to go. And we look at America, and I like to think of America as being a pretty awesome place to live. And I honestly believe that we are a leader in the nation, in the world, that we can set an example to other nations. And women in our country don't make as much money as men, and it has been brought to my attention that it is not just because we pay them less because we're sexist, which we do, but we also do not encourage our daughters to go into science, mathematics, technology, engineering. Women are more likely to go into caregiving professions like teaching and nursing, which make significantly less money than science, mathematics, engineering, technology. But guess what? All the other developed nations are doing it. They actually incentivize girls becoming part of those fields because women who study in those fields are more likely to stay in their countries and to make a contribution to their nation. President Obama recognized that when women in the world are not equal citizens, the entire world suffers. This isn't a women issue. This is a human being on the planet, all of us, it impacts all of us issue. And I really want you to I just want to invite you to take it on that way. If you're a woman, I want to invite you to see yourself as powerful. Please, do not underestimate who you are and who you can be in the world. You are one woman. Susan B. Anthony was one woman. Harriet Tubman was one woman. You can make a profound impact. And if you are a man, if you are a brother, if you are a husband, if you are a father, teach your sons and your daughters how important women are to our world. There was a video that I decided not to show because it was a little bit negative, but it was a woman who is now running for president, and she was modeling the behavior that she has experienced as a woman. So all of the women were taking the part of men, and the men were being treated as women in the workplace. And it's funny, it's well done, but it's a little snarky, and I thought not super appropriate for church. But one thing that came up in that video has come up every single time I walk into a room for a conference, for a meeting, for a weekend seminar, for the National Council. What is the first question that I am always asked? No, that's, thank you, Abe. Not my dress.
Who's taking care of you?
Who's taking care of your children? It's not said in an ugly way, it's not said in a judgmental way. But I'm always in the room with people who have children younger than my children. I was recently in a meeting where we were discussing the spouse of a person having young children and that they might not be able to fully support their spouse in a paid position because they had young children. I'm also asked, when am I going to have more children? And then before, when we first got married, people asked me another question all the time. But it's not seen as inappropriate. I mean, we don't go up to Justin Fong, who's a young dad, or Hiro Hernandez, who's a young father, or we don't approach them and say, oh, who's taking care of your baby, Hiro? Because we assume, but we need to change the way that we look at how we work together if we're going to change the world. If we're going to have a revolution, it doesn't just mean, oh, you want to be a leader, that's great, I support you. It means, do you know that you're a leader? Do you know that true parents believe that you can change the world? Do you feel confident? Because I want to support you. What do you feel passionate about? I want to help you become a leader. That's what it looks like. And if there's an area where they don't have experience, it means supporting them. It doesn't mean we leave space for women at the table. It means that we invite them, we grab them, we bring them, we encourage them, we uplift them, we teach them if they don't know who they are as a daughter of God. So, does anybody know who these women are? I know Mrs. Orman does. She's awesome. She's very responsible and politically active, which is cool.
Shirley Chisholm.
Yes, okay. And who is Shirley Chisholm? If I had a gold star, I would give it to you.
First black woman elected to the American Congress.
That's right. She was the first black woman ever elected to American Congress. She served in the House of Representatives, which has 345 members, and less than 30 of them are women right now. But that's okay, because it's better than it's ever been before. And in our Senate, 100 senators, guess how many women we have? A record-breaking, never-before-seen number. We have 20 women. We have never had that many female senators in America, in American history. 20%, good for us. We're getting closer to half, we're almost there. But just imagine if it was like, really, let's go revolution, like let's go crazy. Flip it all the way over. Imagine if we had a Senate, 100 senator seats were all filled by women. Would that be crazy? That would be insane, right? You're like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of women. That's what a revolution looks like. I mean, I'd be happy with 50%. I think equal representation is awesome. But, you know, I'm going like all the way. Who are these people? Anybody? Okay, these are leaders in our community of faith. So these are people that are recently appointed in leadership roles by Dr. Hak Cha Han Moon. So at the top in the middle, you have our international president. Okay, Sunjanim, she's awesome. I'm a huge fan of hers, by the way. She made me cry the very first speech I went to because she's just a very passionate, genuine, authentic human being. And then over here on the left, we have Professor Yana Che Moon. She's the international president for Women's Federation for World Peace. In case you didn't know, it's a NGO, highest consultative status at the United Nations. They've been doing incredible work around the world for the past 20 years or so. And then on this side, for our Blessing and Family Ministry, for our national church, Crescentia Degodi. Yeah, you can give it up for her. She's amazing. And then who do we have in the middle? Bridgeport, what? Katerina Desertel, future incoming president of Women's Federation for World Peace USA, currently the vice president. Mari Curry, vice president, yeah. Family Fed USA. And then Kayleigh Moffitt, she's in charge of youth ministry all around the country. Naokimi Ushiroda and Milhan Stevens. Naokimi does Collegiate Association for the Research of Principles, and Milhan is also a vice president. He's actually the future president. So you might notice something they all have in common.
They're all young?
Yeah, and Cass, you think that's young. They're all youngish though, right? And many of them are women. And here's the thing, they all have really important positions. Do you think that they have the most experience? No, I'm really asking you, are they the most qualified for the position? One of my favorite Bible verses is, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. God makes us a promise that if he asks us to do something and we step up, the tools to accomplish the job will be provided. Now, I know when Crescentia was appointed to be the director of the Blessed Family Ministries, I'm not going to say all the things that I heard people say about her, but most of them were not very nice. A lot of people doubted her ability. They said, how can she be the leader of the Blessed Family Ministry? She doesn't even have a kid. There was a lot of doubt, a lot of naysaying, and not a lot of support for her, but within just a few months, she accomplished things that we've been trying to accomplish for years, and we just hadn't been able to get those projects done. It exploded. It was amazing to me. I was so inspired by what she did. And in case you didn't know, if you go to BFM, blessedfamilyministries.org, you can find counseling support services, you can find books that you can order, they'll be at your house in a couple of days. If you want to match your children, there's lots and lots of matching things. You can even go to a level 1 or 2 workshop online. There are so many resources for you, literally with the click of a mouse. And Crescentia helped to make that happen. And she did it in a completely different way than anyone else would have done it because she is a unique daughter of God. Not because she's perfect or better, but your parents saw something in her, a potential, and they gave her responsibility, authority, opportunity, and support. This is what I want to see, not just in our community of Bridgeport. I mean, we're awesome. I love our community. I want to see this everywhere. I want to see it in schools. I want to see it in our local government. I want to see it in our national government. I want America to be an exemplar for the world. I want people to look at America and see what they're doing over there. Look at their families. Look at their leadership, how diverse it is, how powerful it is. Look at the contribution that women have to make. Look how successful their nation is. Look how healthy their nation is. Do you know, when you bring women into a situation, the violence rate in a community goes down. Overall health goes up. There's so much research just by being there, ladies. You don't even have to do anything. You just show up. And people are like, oh, we probably shouldn't kill that guy. There's a woman over there. So just being who you are. You're incredible and amazing. And I really want to encourage you, don't be okay with being a participant. You can be a leader in your unique way. You don't have to be the front runner. You don't have to be the organizer. You can lead in anything and everything. So this is Dr. Ha Cha-Han-Moon, and she is one of my personal heroines. I really look up to her, and if you have time, you should definitely go and check out. Dan Pfefferman made an awesome YouTube video. It's a tribute to her. It's a song. It's pretty cool. It's called She Stepped Up. Some really amazing photographs in there. But she's been living a public life since she was a teenager, making an impact, loving, serving, giving. And now she's asking us as a community to see ourselves completely differently. By when? When do we need to look this totally different, youthful, feminine way?
2020.
Yeah, by 2020. And I have to say, America, we're a little bit slow. Some of the other countries are making us look bad, I have to say. You know, most of our new leadership was directly appointed by Dr. Ha Cha-Han-Moon. She was like, okay, America, okay, America, you, and you. Thank you. So I'm ready to be like, hey, look what we did. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the anniversary of women becoming citizens of this nation. Just a few days ago in 1920, women became people in this country. Before that, women were chattel, which means if I slipped and fell on a patch of black ice at my workplace, I couldn't sue my employer because I was legally not a person. But my husband could sue my employer for property damage. I'm not kidding. This is legally chattel. I had to look up, like, what does chattel mean? Does that mean I was a cow? No, it means I was a possession. And in 1920, a couple of days ago, I became a person in this country. People died so that I could be a person in this country. So that I could go to school, so that I could receive an education, so that I could go to the same hospital as other citizens of this country, and so that I could go and exercise my right to vote and to participate in the leadership of this country. From the lowest grassroots level of my church council to being the president of the nation. Sometimes we take for granted the rights and liberties that we have. And this is not just talking to you if you're a black woman. If you are Asian, you are not a person in this country. If you are anything other than white and a man, you are not a person in this country, and you are. And you have been invited, but I'm sorry, I think actually you have a responsibility. It doesn't mean that you automatically have all the tools that you need, but women in this community, Japanese sisters, young women, teenagers, grandmothers, you have an important role in this community. You have a contribution you can make in this community. When there's an opportunity to vote for the local church council and you don't understand what we're voting about, ask. You need to remember who you are. You are incredibly powerful. Your voice matters. Who you are matters. Your unique perspective matters. It matters in our community, and it matters in the world. We're talking about the eradication of violence, sexual violence, oppression. We're talking about creating a world of peace. Who will do it? Reverend Moon said, you will do it. So if you are a husband, a father, a brother, a son, you have a big responsibility, because I'm going to tell you, women have been told their whole lives that they're not people, they're things, that they should be quiet and not seen, that their husband can vote for them, that it's not important what they have to say, that they talk too much. You have a powerful role to support them, to help them to discover their role of leadership, and now is the time. Age of Women has been dawning for, it's a 23-year dawn. I'm inviting you to get connected in any way. Our local council is amazing. They have open meetings. We have Mitzi Kurmoto on our council, and Mika Desotel, and Michiko Kim, 3 wonderful sisters. They're already representing the sisters in their community. But they needed to run. They needed to put themselves forward, and people needed to vote for them. And many of you didn't. And so we're still learning, and we're making progress. I get to serve as the Women's Federation for World Peace Connecticut chairwoman. And we have our benefit coming up, and we do all kinds of amazing things in our local community. And you're invited to participate in that. This much, however much you want. Don't forget who you are. It's no big deal. You're just trying to change the world. Please join me in prayer.